Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Mission Matters Money Podcast, your source for all things money. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at AskAdamTorres to keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, missionmatters.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, so today I have Josh Reason on the line, and he is the owner over at Josh.co. Josh, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Adam. I appreciate it.
So I'm excited to get into today's topic. So digital assets as an investment vehicle. I know you are. That's how you make your money, and that's what you do day in and day out. So I'm excited to get into that because there's a lot of entrepreneurs and executives out there listening to this that maybe haven't considered digital assets quite as seriously as they could. But before we do that, let's get a little bit further into what you're doing over at Josh.co overall. Tell us a little bit more about what you have going on.
Yeah, so I've been a brand consultant and an advisor in domain name investment for about 4 to 5 years. It's become a lot more serious recently. But Josh.co is essentially like the holding company for various other businesses. I'm the founder of a domain exchange for it's a wholesale platform. It's called dnwe.com. Among a few other various projects that I have going on, but that would be the main one. That's what I spend a lot of my time in doing, and then the rest of the things is consulting with various companies, big and small, on a regular, ongoing basis.
So, Josh, I think this is a good transition. Let's get into today's topic. So, digital assets as an investment vehicle. I mean, where do you want to start with this one?
Yeah, so I think a lot of people think of digital assets, and I think most people will immediately think of things like Bitcoin today, right? And that, while that's true, and digital assets in that regard are sort of becoming a lot more popular, a lot of people know about it and think about it that way. But the basis of the internet and what every business is built on generally is a domain name, and I've been involved in the domain name space now for a long time, and that's what I do. I invest in domain names. That's the bulk of my income. And a lot of people, they kind of don't see it that way. I think a lot of people sometimes think, hey, people who have a lot of domain names are squatting on domains or something like that, which is not necessarily the case. I spent I've already spent over 100,000 personally this year on buying domain names, right? And that's because they're inherently valuable as assets. And then you sell them when you get the right offer from end users, because they go up in value, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a trademark or anything like that. They're normally very generic terms that people invest in, like mask.com or stone.com or something along those lines, right? That's not, you're not infringing on someone's brand like Microsoft or something along those lines, because that's something very different. That's something that's frowned upon. That's not what we want to do. Digital assets as an investment vehicle today are incredibly important, just because of the direction that that commerce is moving into, that markets are moving into, and everything is moving online. We're seeing right now the pandemic with the coronavirus, and what that's doing to businesses, and how they're saying, okay, what do we do here? We can't go into work, we can't go into the office, and they're thinking, how do we bring our business online? And that all starts with a great domain name. So these are very, very valuable assets.
Man, I'll tell you, so this year, January, was the first time I actually bought a domain name that wasn't just like your regular go on GoDaddy or something like that. So we bought missionmatters.com, and at that moment, I understood. I was like, man, I never thought I'd pay. I think it was almost like $3,000. I was like, I never thought we'd pay $3,000 for a domain, but it matched our brand. We did a completely rebrand, and I was like, whoever bought that domain was smart. And and I'm like, that was a great investment for them. I know they didn't obviously pay that much for it, right? But who knows how long they held on to it. So there is an investment component and a time value of money. So I'm not underestimating their prowess in purchasing on it and investing in it. But that's the first time it hit me. So some of the people listening, if they've never bought like a premium domain or they never had a brand where they needed something else where they couldn't just like pivot and add a number or add something weird to it, and they're like, then you get it. Like until you pay for one, I feel like you don't get it, huh, Josh?
Yeah, no, 100%. You know, listen, I try to develop some of my domain names. I buy them because I think that they're incredible assets, and one day I could use them some of the time. You know, people don't necessarily think that, hey, you know, when I first started buying domain names a long time ago, I wasn't making money off people. I was losing money in learning the industry and what was valuable, what made a good brand, what wasn't valuable, right? I mean, you think that every domain name that you can go out and register is valuable. It's not. The names that you can register for $10 or $8 or whatever, those are generally not valuable domain names. I mean, I've spent on one domain name as an investment, just because I like the brand. I've spent $25, $30, $50, even $70,000, and you know, I'm not buying those for to sell to anyone in particular. Mm-hmm. I'm buying those because I think that they're a great investment for what's coming in the future. Just like you would buy, you know, just like a real estate investor buys real estate because they think that the future, you know, that property is going to rise in value over time, or they think that in a retail environment they can sell it for more. It's the same concept.
What are some of the things that you feel make a domain or a brand valuable, like to where it can have some maybe intrinsic or inherent value as a digital asset?
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of the time you'll hear that shorter is better. You obviously want it to be memorable. You want it to resonate with your audience. I would always, I obviously use Josh.co, but in general, I tend to say to most people, you want to stick with .com. .com is just cemented in the minds of consumers. They understand it. It's what they naturally go to. It's what people naturally add at the end of a name when they're typing something in. Having said that, .co, .io, .ai are very popular within the tech industry. And if you're looking for a shorter one-word brand, what you'll find is a lot of the time the .coms have been taken. They're owned by Microsoft. They're owned by Apple. They're owned by Disney. They're owned by, you know, these massive corporations that have no intention of ever selling. So there is a time and a place where you might need to use a two-word instead. So if I want to call my company Apricot, for example, but I can't get apricot.com because it's owned by Disney, then there are some other things that you might have a look at. You might say, okay, what about, I'm a financial service company, maybe I'm going to try apricotfinancial.com, or maybe I'm going to, you know, try to appeal a little bit more to the techie side of things, and I'm going to say, I think I can go with apricot.io. Or, you know, there are various things, but what I don't want to go with is apricot-financialservices.com, because it's confusing. It's definitely not an inherently valuable domain name. I'm confused just hearing you say it. Exactly. But it's tough. It's tough. It doesn't, a lot of the time it's not going to pass the radio test. It's not memorable. So that's what you want to focus on. You want to focus on something that I can say, hey, Adam, you know, go to josh.co, right? Mm-hmm. Or, hey, Adam, you can go to dnwe.com. Super easy, super simple. But then, yeah, the really high-end stuff is like, hey, Adam, go to stone.com, go to grass.com, go to house.com, right? That's why they sell for millions of dollars.
Go to missionmatters.com. I'm just saying. No.
Exactly.
Josh.
Well, let me tell you, that's a great domain name, missionmatters.com. I mean, it flows really, really well. That's probably why you chose that brand. You've got mission, and then it's because it starts with an M. Matters starts with an M, so you know it flows really nicely. Yeah, and it's a two-word.com brands. That, I mean, I don't think you paid too much at $3,000. I think that's a really cool name.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about. You heard it here. I feel better about my decision because I'm not claiming that I did other than it matched our brand and we already had the name kind of picked out and we were doing a complete rebrand and we already had the name and then we just went in there and I'm like, oh, we didn't even look. Let's see. And when we saw it on there for sale, I'm like, okay, we can actually afford that. Thank God. That's a good thing. Yeah. If it would have been one of those $70,000 boys, Josh, I wouldn't have been able to do it. Not for this, not for a rebrand, that is.
Oh, I understand. I completely understand. There's different ends of the market, and it has different values depending on what your business is, right? So some people the domain name is less important than others. It completely depends. But what I can tell you is that every single day, I mean, right now in this moment, there's auctions happening. Domains are changing hands between investors, between investors and end users. Wow. Every single minute, and it's a lot bigger industry than what people recognize.
Wow,
because it's the basis. It's the basis to everything that happens online. Mm-hmm. So, awesome. and investing in domain names as an alternative to the stock market or something like that is something that I caught on to early. And by early, I mean early for me, not early. I wasn't investing in domains in the 90s or early 2000s, but early for my life. And I just realized that it's great because it also helps create value. It's something that people can definitely look at, and I hope that people start to look at it in a different light because the difference between a domain investor and a domain squatter are vast. Very vast. I too, like everyone else, frown upon the people that try to benefit off other people's brands or trademarks.
Are there like funds or like how does that part of it work? So let's say that somebody's listening and they want to invest, but they're like, I don't know about this stuff, but they want to diversify their assets or anything like that. Like, how does that part of it work? If you know.
Yes, so I absolutely do. If anyone wants to reach out to me, I can help point them in the right direction there. There are various courses, very in-depth courses that, GoDaddy and Uniregistry employees have actually used in the past. So, top people in the industry, when they hire employees, they will send them through these courses. I can actually I can get a discount into those courses if they're interested in learning more about domain investing.
That's awesome. And then a little bit more about dnwe.com, about that and what people can learn there.
Yeah. So, when you become a domain investor, it's an application. So you have to apply to get in. So it's based for domain investors, but it's something that I worked on. It's something that I worked on last year and released at the beginning of this year. It's essentially a private exchange where investors can go on and trade between themselves, so they can buy and sell domain names in a secure environment. It's been great. We released it in January. We've got nearly 500 users now. We did over. I think we did 35 transactions in the first 30 days. Most of these are, somewhere in the $500 to $2,500 range. Some of them are much higher, but that's about average. It's great. It's something that I'm very passionate about. And if you do end up, taking the plunge and investing in domain names, it could be a useful tool for you.
Awesome. Well, hey, Josh, really appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing more about your background and all the great work that you're doing at DNWE and also just Josh.co, overseeing your other companies. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, leave me a review on the Apple iTunes Store, and if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, Mission Matters Money, definitely head on over to and give us some comments on the video. Let us know what kind of things you're working on. Love to interact with you and keep the conversation going over in our YouTube community. And Josh, thanks again for coming on the show.